running?
Oh, we're live.
We're live, yep.
Do you have a quorum out there?
Martha's just.
It's Martha, who's online?
Martha and Sonia.
Okay, we do have a quorum.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, Chair, Vice Chair Savas.
Okay, I'll call to order the April 8th, 2021 business meeting. County Administrator, could you please call the poll?
Yes, Vice Chair Savas. So first, Chair Smith is out of the office today, so Vice Chair Savas is chairing the meeting, although Chair Smith is going to attempt to phone into the meeting here shortly. So she's not online right just yet, but we'll let you know when she is here. So first, staff support tonight, Christina Twilliger, Clerk to the Board, Stephen Madcore, County Counsel. Roll call, the commissioners on Zoom, Commissioner Fisher,
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
In the room, Commissioner Shull,
Here.
Vice Chair Savas.
Here. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Schmidt, our County Administrator Schmidt. I will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
This of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
one
under
nation,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with
and justice for all.
justice.
Thank you. We are holding this meeting today in person and virtually. If you have joined us on the Zoom app for this meeting and you are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. With that in mind, I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and the members of the public, that we use the Robert's Rules of Orders to conduct business at this meeting. I would like to call your attention to the last-minute change to the agenda tonight. Because of the recent announcement of the governor that the Clackamas County will return to high risk without a cautionary period, we are adding a public discussion item to the beginning of the meeting because the governor's announcement was unexpected. There was not adequate time to register to speak on this matter. Therefore, we will allow any interested person to offer public comment when the time comes. The goal is to review and finalize a letter addressed to the governor that shares our concerns over the change. So basically, what we'll do, we're going to have when the time's right, we'll have the discussion. There'll be opportunity for public comment only on that item, and those who want to speak on public comment on anything else other than that still has the opportunity at the end of the meeting for that public comment session. So with that, Gary, can you please introduce the first item?
I will. First, Chair Smith is online now on Zoom, so she is present, although Vice Chair Savas, you will still chair the meeting tonight, but Chair Smith is present. So first, we'll do some quick updates with Nancy Bush, Director of Disaster Management. If you want to do ice storm first, and then go into wildfire updates, please.
Thank you, Gary. So yes, with the ice storm, there isn't a lot to update this week. We did, as I reported last week, have talked to FEMA. We have sent everything up to the governor's office. Her next move will be to send it to Region 10 and then to FEMA and the president's desk. We have not heard anything back at this point about that declaration, but we're hoping to hear within the next couple of weeks. So I will keep you up to date on that as we move that forward. For the wildland fire recovery, just have a couple things. We had a meeting today with ODOT and talking about our PPDR, which is our personal property debris removal, as well as the removal of the dangerous trees along our rights-of-way and Highway 24. So we do have some crews out that are sampling for asbestos. They've done 30 properties here in Clackamas County. The results have been returned for all 30 of those properties, with only one property confirmed positive for asbestos, which is really good news for us because it makes everything go a lot faster. The debris removal contractor has received work orders for the personal property, and that is for 11 properties so far, and we're expecting another 11 in probably the next week to 2 weeks. So right now, we're looking at 22 properties that are going to be ready for debris removal. And we are going to be doing more communication with the community because we can still have people opt in. Personal property owners can still opt into this process to get their property cleaned up. So we'll be working with ODOT on that communication as well. And we do have manufactured home placement is now at 8. So that has been going up a little steadily since the spring and probably the better weather. So we're still seeing some of those numbers go up there. And Mr. Schmidt, that is my update.
Very good.
For
So any
wildfire.
questions about ice storm or wildfire update?
Don't see anybody.
Okay, next is the regular COVID-19 update. Nancy, is Philip joining tonight?
Yes, Philip
Okay.
should be online.
So Philip Mason Joyner, the county's public health director, will join for this update.
And while we're pulling Philip over, I believe Commissioner Schrader asked us about high-risk communications and the communications that we're getting out about making sure people are being vigilant. And I just want to go over a few things that we've had happen over actually the whole entire series of what's been going on with COVID. We have had 2.6 million engagements and nearly 127,000 engagements on social media through this event. The PIC has taken, which is a Public Inquiry Center, has taken 9,257 calls. We're now receiving around 155 calls a day on average. We do see that go up whenever we get more vaccine in and we have more clinics that are open. We produce a video every week on our COVID-19 response. Every week since late February, we've distributed an email about top 3 things to know about COVID-19. Over 13,000 email subscribers in our over 13,000 email subscribers in our email database. We have had 17 listening sessions and town halls that has directly gotten information from the community and given information to the community. We have the COVID-19 quiz that is an interactive tool where residents tested their safe COVID-19 behaviors, and we've had 6,800 responses there. And 90% of the respondents say they always wear their mask when in public or in close proximity of others. Things that we're going to be doing moving forward is we'll continue to remind our audience of the importance, of course, of following safety guides and other behaviors to prevent spread of COVID. Doing public outreach and engagement events that can leverage to get and motivate behavior. So we're working with county administration to host a special town hall on COVID-19 and moving into high risk, and we're planning for community conversations related to the American Rescue Package funds as well. We want to make sure that we do quality. Sometimes quantity doesn't always do what we want to when it comes to outreach, and we don't want people to become numb to what we're putting out there. So Commissioner Schrader, I hope that answers your question from last week. And I will go
Thanks.
I'll go
Thank
to-
you, Nancy. I
Okay,
really appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
so we are going to go to the slides now. Next slide, please, Christina. So in Clackamas County, we now have 14,626 cases and 201 deaths. Over this past week, the deaths have increased by 5, and we've increased by 322 cases. Multnomah County is at 33,776 with 564 deaths. Their deaths have increased by 6, and they've increased by 528 cases. Washington County is at 22,686 with 228 deaths. That changes the additional 5 deaths and 352 cases. Next slide, please. Our county metrics, as Commissioner Savas said, we are now going into high risk. We have, at this time, over the past 2 weeks, 140.5 per 100,000, which again puts us back into high risk. And our test positivity is 5.5, which should be under 5 in order to be in a lower risk category. Philip, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say on that right now, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Nancy. Good evening, everyone. I would say that, yes, high-risk category really impacted is restaurants, faith institutions, funeral homes, entertainment establishments, gym and fitness centers. They must, starting tomorrow, operate at 50%, go from 50 to 25% indoor capacity. Next slide, please. We share this every week, just the case count each week over the course of the pandemic. So in the past week, we were a little bit higher than the week previous at 292. Next slide. We've talked a lot about outbreaks, and we have seen a significant increase of COVID-19 outbreaks here in Clackamas County. So for the public, outbreaks are cases that we can connect to one another These are cases that are outside of the household through our contact tracing efforts. It's listed here workplaces. This is workplaces of several types: food processing, landscaping, manufacturing, construction, a handful of restaurants, stores, and offices. And we have talked quite a bit about schools. Schools, really it's the activities outside of in-person instruction that we've seen related to that. And in social gatherings, we know that gatherings of people coming together, that has been a driver of spread, but it is a challenge with social gatherings to connect one case to another, especially in our region where folks get together across county lines. But for the current time period, we have just a handful of those larger social gatherings that we've been able to connect. Next slide, please. Hospitalizations, the Oregon Health Authority did report yesterday that statewide they are seeing hospitalizations and death start to have an increase. This graphic here is looking at the hospitals in our region, the Northwest Oregon region. So this red line here just shows the current hospitalizations of COVID patients, 99. And really at this point, we're just a little bit concerned. We don't want to see where you see the start of the big spike back in November, the fall surge. We really want to avoid a spring surge. Also, the state has added a new metric on hospital capacity. That's been added for determining if a county were to move back to the extreme risk category, and that would require 300 total COVID patient hospitalizations across the state. So this is just as our region. Currently, across the state of Oregon, there's 171 COVID positive patients in hospitals today. Next slide, please. Commissioner Schrader had questions earlier this week about the variants, and is that the cause of some of the increases? The state also this week released a new dashboard to show the different variants of concern and monitoring those. So this shows you the number of variants that they found, and then the locations of where they were first identified. Dr. President, our health officer, and I met with the Oregon Health Authority this week on this very topic. And at this time, this is a random sampling. It's conducted by the State Public Health Lab and other labs like OHSU. They don't do a sample around all the variants for every case, but we can say that after our conversations with our state partners that we're pretty confident that it's not the variants themselves that are driving our case increases. It's really more of a relaxing of our individual and personal behaviors in following the public health precautions. Next slide, please. We are really thrilled that over 120,000 people in Clackamas County have received at least their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. So we are making some progress. Vaccine supplies this month are limited. And we are hearing that that's going to continue to be the case for the month of April. Hopeful that the month of May we'll start to see more Johnson & Johnson vaccine. But we know we continue to have this issue of demand and more people becoming eligible. So next week we will open appointments at Sandy High School, Malala High School, and Wilsonville at the Clackamas Community College. But there won't be as many appointments. We're talking a few hundred appointments, not the 1,000 appointments that we have been able to offer in previous week because we just don't have enough vaccine supplies locally. Next slide. The state has accelerated the eligibility. So starting this past Monday, Group 7 was eligible statewide. That's frontline workers and younger adults with underlying health conditions. And then on the 19th, every adult age 16 and older will be eligible statewide to access an appointment to get the vaccine. In our final slide, we will post the local opportunities on our county's website, clackamas.us/coronavirus/vaccine. You can also call our call center, 503-655-8224. We've been able to use our waitlist quite effectively to get folks into local vaccine clinics. And the fastest route is still going to be the mass vaccination clinics at the Oregon Convention Center or at the drive-thru at the Portland Airport. You can go to getvaccinated.oregon.gov, pre-registered. You'll then get alerted when an appointment becomes available. So we always want to continue to remind the public about the ways in which folks can get access to an appointment. And that's all the prepared information we have this evening. We're happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Philip, could you roll back the slide to the hospital capacity, please?
Let me go back.
One thing I wanted to point out, I don't think a lot of people realize this, it's not well publicized, but Oregon, why the hospital capacity is a bigger deal for Oregon than a lot of other states is that Oregon has the lowest hospital capacity per capita than anywhere in the country. Maybe you might be number 49 or 50, but we may not be the worst, but we're really close. So our hospital capacity doesn't have the buffer, if you will, to absorb a lot of spikes. So that's why it's a big deal. That's the case count. It's another couple slides. Thank you. There it is. So when we spoke Tuesday, I didn't have access to this graph, but I think this graph kind of gives us the context. Obviously, the large spike you see there, for those who can't see those dates, that's at the beginning of that spike, it's November, and at the very end of that spike, it's the end of January. So where we are today is where the box is, and so we're at the 100 mark, but as you can see, it's rising similar to where it did to the left in June, July, and where it rose in the early November. So while I think hospital capacity is a great guide, I just really do wonder if there is opportunity for, a cautionary period. I think our latest letter, Gary, question, that's posted. Is our version 3 posted?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I don't know if people in the audience or anyone can access that either on Zoom or whatnot, but I thought what we would do is there any other questions for Philip and Nancy while we're here before I transition into the letter?
Yes. Commissioner Fisher and Commissioner Schrader both have their hands up.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you. Philip, it's really remarkable, the vaccine effort that is happening in our community. And so with an April 19th date of pretty much anybody who wants the vaccine can schedule an appointment, we done projections based on vaccine supply as to when we will, what date we will, for everyone who wants the vaccine will be able to get the vaccine?
At this point, my hope would be June, if I had to make a guess. The month of April, it's going to be really challenging, and there's going to be a lot of frustrated folks who want a vaccination, who won't very easily be able to get an appointment. In May, I think we're really, we provided a nice highlight of the Clackamas Town Center Clinic and a lot of the clinics we have out in the community, and I think that's a highlight of what's to come in May. We wish we could put on all these events every week and have them rolling and folks be able to access them. We just don't have the supplies to be able to implement all the plans we have still.
Well, I'm still very much amazed at the distribution planning that we have been able to execute at the local level. It's really remarkable. So my next question, if everybody who wants the vaccine gets the vaccine, do we have a forecast of what's the percentage of our population who will be vaccinated?
I don't know that. I know we're aiming, we have over 400,000 community members in Clackamas County. Our hope is to get, close around over 300,000 would be incredible. So that's kind of our goal internally to get there. We've got still work to do to get more vaccinations out to the people.
Okay, and so that would be about 75%, a little less than 75%. Would that give us herd immunity?
Yeah, well, and also, you have to factor in that right now children aren't eligible to receive the vaccine. So if that also comes into play, that'll be another opportunity as well to help reduce transmission and get more people protected.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schrader. You're on mute.
Thanks, Vice Chair Savas. So Philip, couple of questions, a follow-up to what Commissioner Fisher has asked. And that is, what is the holdup with the supply chain? Because that's really what I'm hearing. Is it production issues without, of 3 vaccines that we just can't get enough to move this along a bit faster? I mean, what's holding up that production? I mean,
Yeah, I believe it's manufacturing at the, national, and the whole globe is trying to get these vaccines. The incident that happened last week with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and 15 million doses essentially having to be tossed out certainly impacted our plans here in Oregon directly in terms of what we were going to be doing the month of April.
okay. So that was a significant blow that we had no control over.
Correct.
But that we don't as a county have any direct control over a supply chain for vaccines.
Correct. All the vaccines that we've received locally have been put to use, and we have more plans than we have vaccine at this point.
Now, the other thing that we had talked about is some of the rural counties aren't using them all. They've been vaccinating people, more quickly. Is there any chance of getting some of that allocated, do you think, or should we push for that, maybe to get that out here to our neck of the woods, which is urban, rural, and suburban? That's what I'm wondering.
The larger populated counties continue at the public health level continue to advocate for those concerns that each phase of this process, the populated counties have just had more eligible folks, and it takes more vaccine supplies and it takes longer to get all of them vaccinated, where when you're a smaller county, you can move through the process a lot more quickly. So we have been advocating that adjustments to the allocations and examining that and addressing some of those inequities really, really important.
So
and
maybe
that would be great to continue to lift that up.
That would be something you could mention to the powers that be, OHA, and potentially the governor, is that really we need to get more allocations per capita because of what we're dealing with our sizes. And this is not just our county, it's the region, the Tri-County region. I wondered if you could show up the variance again, that slide with the variance on it.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. There we go.
There we go.
So I kind of found this interesting because I asked that, and I'm finding it interesting. The UK variant is not predominant. It's actually a variant from California that seems to be an issue. And I guess my question is, are we aware of how these variants are affecting the transmission of the virus? And do we have any information that the current vaccines that we have will be effective against them? And I know this is a question I don't even know if you guys can answer because this virus seems to mutate, and some of the mutations are probably benign, but the concern is that I've heard is that some of them may, number one, be easier to transmit and actually potentially might be more virulent. So have we got any information? And again, I'm looking at this. I often thought we'd see more from the UK, but it really seems as if a variant from California is kind of blossoming here. As well as, both California variants. So I don't know if you can answer that, but I'm kind of curious.
I don't know that I can fully answer. I think there's emerging evidence showing that the variants are more infectious, spread more easily. So that's why, we do want to keep case counts low, and we want to, vaccinate as many people as we possibly can, as we quickly can. You hear, on the news that this is a race against the variants. There's a lot of unknowns with these variants because they're new. The viruses, of course, evolve, try to figure out a way to be resistant, and we all we want to get ahead of that.
Is there any place we can go to maybe get some current research about that, or which is changing day by day, I guess? Is there any?
Yeah, we have some research that I can try to hunt down and send to you.
Okay, I'd appreciate that, and actually send it to all the commissioners.
Yeah, with the caveat that this is emerging data and it's changing every day.
I think that's part of the dilemma that we're facing overall, quite frankly, if I could just make a quick statement, is that we're trying to provide certainty for people in very uncertain times. And the epidemiology of this virus, or the way it spreads and things, because if we don't get enough people vaccinated, you're going to have, at least as I'm understanding it, reservoirs of mutations that could change things drastically. And that's the real importance why I think one of the key issues we're having is a lack of supply here. Because the more people that get it, the more people that it's incubated in, the more you'll see mutations and variants. And right now, we don't seem to, it's playing catch up constantly as to what that means in terms of transmission, in terms of infection, in terms of how more, the morbidity of it. And I just want to tell everyone, our businesses, as well as our frankly, our constituents, don't kill the messenger. This is also a question of public health and biology, as well as we talk later about the economic impacts we've been dealing with. And we're going to try and balance both of those. We're going to try and thread the needle to the best of our ability. So thank you. Thanks, Philip, for all your work. Nancy.
Thanks, Commissioner Schrader. The only thing I'll add to this, I don't see any other hands up. The only thing I'll add to this is that going back to the hospital capacity issue and the unique position Oregon is in, I really wonder if, the governor, us, we can call our U.S. senators or our congressmen and say, hey, we ought to be prioritized. The states with the lowest hospital capacity ought to be prioritized on getting more of the vaccine distribution nationally to Oregon so we can distribute that. It seems to me that we would be considered a vulnerable state because of that hospital capacity. So if anyone has a line or an interest to call your U.S. senator or congressman about that argument, it might help. I hope that my colleagues and I will both try to communicate that to the state as well, to advocate for more vaccine doses into Oregon. So any other questions for Philip or Nancy? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Philip, again for your great work. We appreciate it. I will now move to Gary. I guess what's next? I think that's obviously the letters next for us to
Yes,
discuss.
so this is not on the agenda, but the addition is to discuss a letter to Governor Brown to discuss the COVID risk level changes and the impacts to our businesses and our community. If I may give a quick recap, last Thursday, 1 week ago, the board agreed to send a letter to the governor because of that time, because our case numbers were increasing. The board felt we need to give notice to the governor, please don't change our risk levels and impact businesses. We had a draft letter for you this Tuesday for you to review. You had some feedback to staff and asked us to bring it back next Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we received a press release from the governor announcing we were moving to the high-risk category with no advance warning. So you asked that you bring the letter tonight for board to the review and potentially take action. You do have 3 versions of a letter, all of which are posted online at the end of the business meeting packet so the public can look at it. The first version, labeled version 1, is the updated letter staff wrote yesterday. Version 3, we skipped number 2. Version 3 is a letter that Vice Chair Savas and Commissioner Schrader drafted later today. And version 4 is a draft Chair Smith is offering for consideration. So those are the 3 drafts of the letter seeking input, commissioners, which version you'd like to send to the governor, if any.
Okay.
Gary, may I say something?
Yes, that's Chair Smith. Go ahead.
I sent a drafted version of the letter without seeing the version that Paul and Martha did. I have not had time to read it and analyze it. and give it the due diligence that I'm sure it deserves. I'm on the road, and right now I'm pulled over on the I-5 in Southern Oregon just to make this phone call. I'm going to make a recommendation that I really hope the board considers. I strongly recommend that we wait until tomorrow's press conference from the governor. I understand she's going to have a press conference. I understand she sent out the letter yesterday. But we don't know what she's going to say tomorrow. We assume we know, we think we know what she's going to say. I would rather wait to her press conference in case there's any surprises. And then we respond from a position of leadership. I've always known that there was going to be a time during this pandemic where if you pit Oregon against the other states in the union, there's over 30 states in America right now that are not in the extreme shutdowns that Oregon is, despite the fact that Oregon, on a per capita basis, has some of the lowest COVID rates. I don't think that from a governor's point of view, our COVID response is being managed well. I would like to address that, regardless of the vaccination rates, regardless of whether we get our share, even hospital capacity. Those are not items that this board can work on. What we can work on is balance. Balance has been so lacking in this entire equation. The balance of our economic health and our mental health is what I want to see us bring to the table. And that's when I put those additions in red. I think that we've gone clear over to one side and are so worried about what the health impacts, the physical health impacts are above all else, that we're literally going to die because of the economic and mental health constraints that this is putting on us. So I'm going to strongly recommend that we get together after the press conference tomorrow in an emergency session and start wordsmithing and decide what's important for our commission. And commissioners, I'm going to tell some of the people, you're going to be really uncomfortable because it's time that we really stand up and take some leadership in Clackamas County. Yes, we can do it intelligently. We can offer solutions to the future, which I see none at the state leadership. I see no, and by the way, and I've been talking about this ever since this came out. We need to start looking at it from a leadership perspective and not just a reactionary to what the governor's done. And I know you all have worked very hard on it, but I strongly recommend we wait until the governor says what she needs to say.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I see a light on.
Commissioner
Christina?
Schrader has her hand up.
Commissioner Schrader.
Thanks, Chair Smith, for that. I'm going to ask you as a colleague and friend to take a, if you want to wait till tomorrow, I don't have an issue with that. I really don't. I understand really this has to come from all five of us. What this draft tried to do, and I know my other commissioners know this, and I think I've already told you this, that I went to the Regional Solutions folks, not only for our region, but the person, Leah Horner, who runs Regional Solutions throughout the state. And they are the group that is our Regional Solutions group in our region, the Tri-County. They're the ones essentially tasked with implementing the governor's, resiliency economic development plan. And I must say, quite frankly, I do find that a little ironic. So I made a commitment to call them and to say to them that our medium to small businesses are feeling as if they are being unduly, treated. And part of what they say to me, and if anyone wants to get on the line and, eventually from our business community, is that they're not understanding why places like Costco and the big grocery stores and all these things are open. And for them, it's actually, believe it or not, an equity issue. They feel as if they're being penalized because they're smaller businesses. So that's number one, just some of the feedback I think I hear from our businesses. The second piece of this is their frustration that they are employers. And quite frankly, what came across when we talked with the chambers the other day, Commissioner Savas was there too. They are very worried about the impact on their employees. Once again, having to probably maybe let people go, having them get back on unemployment, kind of doing that chain of that's going to happen, the dominoes effect that's going to happen when they may have to tell their employees, we're going to cut you again, and we can't afford to give you a paycheck. And that cascade event of having people slip into unemployment and potential poverty. And that came directly from our business community. Again, medium to smaller businesses. So that's how their lens is right now. Their lens is the worry of not only their business itself, but actually what can happen to their employees. And I do think we have to have sympathy for that. We do quite a deal of work with our homeless and houseless folks because we have compassion. They're coming from a place of compassion for people that they want to employ, want to keep in jobs, and some of them are feeling very, very desperate right now. And they're not understanding why, again, the larger entities, corporate businesses don't seem to be as impacted, and the bread and butter businesses in our communities seem to be getting hit the hardest. So that's a dilemma that right now we're going to need all of our heads to kind of figure that one out. They made some suggestions to us, and one of them would be, we are going to get American Recovery Act dollars, and they really want to make sure that if they can have some access to those dollars where they can get the help to remain stable, that would be a huge step forward from them if the state continues to do the seesaw of opening, and closing. Then I would strongly suggest that we take a serious look at that as a commission, because we can't let them die on the vine, because it will be the death of Main Street. Okay, that's it for me. The other piece is their frustration. And again, this is not our public health folks' fault, but they would really like to see us start really focusing on their employees to make sure they're getting vaccinated and to make sure that they're getting the immediate help that they need to make sure that they can stay safe. Those were, and Commissioner Savas, weigh in any time, but those were two takeaways from our conversation with them. And I would propose, I'm fine waiting, but this letter tried to thread the needle between good public health practice and recognizing the economic devastation that our communities are dealing with and our medium and small businesses are dealing with at this point. So if, for whatever reason, we are being told that we can't open up or be at lower risk, we had better come up with some kind of a plan to make sure they remain stable, to make sure that they are here, to make sure their employees are going to be taken care of. Now, I know we're not a big fan of government interfering with the private sector, but I would put to this body, there is a time when government should give as much attention to their business community, the lifeblood of Main Street, as much as we're giving to other groups that we care about in this county. So that is my soapbox for the evening. And Commissioner Savas, I'm going to ask you if you have anything to add about what we heard directly from the business community. This is not us just pulling things from the air. It is their frustration and their heartbreak, not only for the businesses that are really fearful of going under, it's also the care of their employees. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Yeah, I'll say a couple words, and then I'll open it up to testimony, because I could see before me some business owners themselves and business chamber folks with us today. So my comments, I could keep it pretty darn brief. Today, tonight, tomorrow, I don't know when. I'm sure that right now employees have already been told not to come to work tomorrow. That's a big deal. And businesses are going to shutter their doors and not come back, because not all of them, but there are some businesses that are already on the edge. This is going to impact them. This is going to shut some businesses down permanently. And those employees will have no place to go other than the unemployment line. Businesses aren't going to be hiring tomorrow. They're going to be laying off people tomorrow. So I don't think I need to say much more. So I'm going to open it up for testimony. I hope people can navigate and find the copies of the letter. I want to say that the letter that we crafted, or Commissioner Schrader and I worked on with staff, by the way, to find something that we thought could, like Commissioner Schrader said, thread the needle. I think it's politically balanced. I think it makes the point very clear. And I don't think it's a time to stall. I think it's a time to act. So with that, Christina, I will take the public testimony first, and then we'll follow with the Zoom testimony.
Okay.
So first up on this matter is Jim Myers.
My name is Jim Myers. I'm a resident of Clackamas County. I live south of Molalla, and I apologize. I have not seen the 3 or 4 letters online, but I would like to say something about the elevation to high-risk category from the Public Health Authority. I may be missing something. I've listened to most of the meetings online, but I haven't heard anything mentioned from anyone regarding the efficacy of alternate treatments for COVID-19. All we hear is, well, we got to lock down, or you got to wear masks, or masks don't work, or now you have to wear 2 masks, or you got to get vaccinated, or it just goes on and on and on. But substances like ivermectin, 12 milligrams every 2 weeks, has been shown by a study by the Swiss to reduce hospitalizations by 90%. Vitamin D3, which you can buy at the pharmacy, over the counter, 16 to 24 milligrams a day reduces hospitalizations by 96%. Zinc, 25 to 50 milligrams a day, reduces hospitalizations by 84%. And there are others that can be used. Michigan, the state of Michigan, has reported that they have 36.5% of their population vaccinated. But yet they lead the U.S. in COVID cases. Okay? I'm trying to catch up with my notes. 246 of their residents have been fully vaccinated and now test positive for COVID-19. I don't understand that. And 3 have died. Now, I verified this on Epoch Times, whether you believe in them or not. KEX News just reported before I walked in that the state of Oregon, and I haven't verified this other than it was on the news, that 168 people in Oregon have been fully vaccinated and have tested positive with COVID-19, and 3 have died. Texas and Florida have reduced their mask mandates and they allow people back into restaurants, and strangely enough, their COVID cases are going down. Why can't we ask in this letter to have some alternative treatments that people can seek rather than the knee-jerk reaction of shutting things down? To me, that's BS, and BS is not profanity. What profanity to me is continuing to shut this state down. It's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next up, we have Laura Edmonds. And by the way, the clock is 3 minutes, so for people know, and if you look up at the wall there, you can see the timer, so you know how you're progressing.
All right. Okay. Good evening, Chair Smith, Vice Chair Savas, and our Board of Commissioners. Martha, you stole our thunder. Thank you very much. Good to see you. So I'm Laura Edmonds. I'm the CEO of the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce. And with me tonight are 3 other chamber executives, and we are part of a collaborative with the Business Recovery Centers. And between us, we represent thousands of businesses and thousands more of their employees. So we are here tonight actually asking for your assistance. And when we talk about this letter, it's really going to be important for us to be able to voice the concerns of the business community, the small business community specifically. With the governor's announcement to take us back to the high-risk status and further reduce our small businesses' ability to return to some normalcy, we are asking for your help to do the following. 1, ask the governor why we were not actually granted the full 2-week cautionary period as was promised by her, and so that the businesses could ready themselves to reduce and adjust their business offerings, provide more time for their employees to prepare for another layoff. Restaurants, is a great example, had already spent $10,000, $20,000 for the next week's food. Half of that will go to waste. They're just throwing money away that they don't have. Second request is asking for clarity on the contact tracing. When we look at where the spikes are originating, schools seem to be the highest rising numbers, yet the business community is being punished for that. We want to know why. It just seems that it's leaving us hollow. There doesn't seem to be a lot of facts based on these decisions she's making, the knee-jerk reactions. So the business community who is being impacted the most needs clarity on these things. Third, due to the impact of the decisions being made, we're asking for additional funding to make these businesses whole. The data that we've gathered as the chambers and business recovery centers has led us to a basic number that each small business would require at least $45,000 each in a grant to be able to make them whole currently so that they can get through this next phase of shutdown. And I want to call it a shutdown because that's pretty much what it is because of the limitations. Lastly, when providing recovery grants for the small businesses, we want the criteria to be less restrictive. We understand that the need to support our BIPOC communities is there. We respect that. But we cannot alienate the rest of the small businesses who are getting closer to closing their doors permanently. And we need to be able to support them with this next round of grants that we want you, our Board of Commissioners, to go to the state requesting. And again, that's at least a minimum of $45,000 to each small business. And we can support those numbers based on conversations we've had with the business community. We thank you all, commissioners, for hearing our pleas on behalf of the small business community, who is the lifeblood of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Next up, I have Kyle Lang.
Thank you, commissioners, for providing us this opportunity. We hope that you take our testimony as chamber directors kind of collectively as different facets of the same diamond as we each give our statements. I'm the executive director of the Canby Area Chamber of Commerce. So just so the commissioners can better understand some of the questions we are being asked in our communities, I'd like to share just some of the concerns that have come from our local business owners. The following is a list of questions we received as local chambers and business recovery centers. One, coming from the businesses, from what we can see, the spikes have been generated by younger populations related to after-hour school activities. How will business rollbacks influence positive change? 2, what measures will the state take to address the source of the outbreak? And again, I referred actually back to the outbreak update slide from the earlier COVID-19 presentation where it said schools and after-school activities are contributing to upwards of 280% case rise in that statistic. We request reinstating, we request reinstating the 2-week caution period, enforcing masks and social distancing, especially within the younger populations. Wouldn't this be a more logical first step in gaining ground? As you can hear from these questions and statements, local business owners are not about endangering themselves, their employees, or their communities. They are simply looking for the boundaries, the rules by which they are being asked to operate, and wanting a degree of stability that will allow them to keep their employees employed, their communities served via the essential services they provide, and to protect their livelihoods. You must understand that the sectors most heavily impacted by capacity restrictions and changes in risk levels are the frontline workers who are most economically fragile. If you truly want to serve the people who need to be served and protect those who need protecting, if we want to continue to have a conversation about COVID and the equitable impacts to our communities, then you must consider advocating on behalf of small business. The Chambers of Commerce represented here represent thousands of employers. But the more critical population that we also represent is the thousands upon thousands of employees who work for our members. And that is one of the major driving forces that brings us here tonight to ask this body to support our local businesses by advocating to the governor as strongly as possible. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Kyle. Next up, I have Victoria Menig. Sorry for that.
Thank you, Board of Commissioners. My name is Victoria Meinig. I am the CEO of the
Can you
Oregon
pull your
City
mic up
Chamber.
a little bit closer to you so we can hear you?
Yep, there you go.
Or
All right.
We'll get closer to it. Thank you.
I'm Victoria Meinig. I'm the CEO of the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here to plead for the people. And I'll tell you that they put the CEO that cries on this subject. So let's see. The change is devastating to our small business owners and their employees, and they are unlikely to survive. Our small business owners have ramped up to begin the recovery process. They made changes, purchased equipment and supplies, and for some perishable items, all to move forward within the moderate level guidelines. They took the time, effort, and expense to recall previous employees, recruit new employees to fill in where they've lost valuable employees who are unwilling to return to work. The employees themselves began to work, causing their unemployment benefits to end. This decrease in levels will cause small businesses to lay off their employees, causing them to have to go through the long and broken process of restating their unemployment and losing income in the process. This also leads to employees no longer wanting to go through the yo-yo effects or take their health at risk, and they're choosing to no longer go back to work. Mentally, emotionally, and financially, the owners and employees will suffer. What is the state willing to do to provide support for the people? Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Next up, I have Shatreen Craik.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Commissioners, for having us here and letting us be a part of this conversation. My name is Shatreen Craik. I am the Executive Director of the Westland Chamber of Commerce and part of the Clackamas County Business Recovery Program. As one of these representatives for our communities, for our small businesses and our chambers, we're here to engage and ensure the recovery of our small businesses through this pandemic. Daily, we see our businesses riding a roller coaster of highs and lows, and we need to create a baseline of safety, stability, and security for them. How does this happen? We bring the vaccines to our business communities, both urban and rural. We offer hours that allow overworked and stressed owners to actually bring their staff in without losing valuable time and money. One of our chambers actually put this together with their local fire department and had a wildly successful outcome. So it can be done. And these results and these connections, they come at only a benefit for our business community and, again, creating that stability. Please help us find ways to get access to vaccines and utilize our fire departments, our pharmacies, whatever avenue we have to offer to make this option for our county to be an equitable and far-reaching impact to help move us forward. I think that would be one step that would make our businesses take these shutdowns with less, I don't want to say violence, but it can help them greatly. I can personally tell you that. The second layer to building this baseline and this support is financial. Every small business is affected dramatically in different ways. We at the Business Recovery Center, we hear it daily. But their requests always come back to the need for money, specifically for rent, utilities, employment, inventory, insurance, just to name a few. And there are not enough funds available now to keep them going and operating. Moving forward, if businesses are limited in any capacity due to the effects of COVID or the executive orders, we as a state, we have to be proactive and ready to financially support these businesses through this turbulence. We want everyone to be safe and secure, allowing our businesses this baseline security and removing the inconsistencies will be key to their survival. Your support is crucial, and we will work tirelessly alongside you to help find an equitable solution for our small businesses. And we appreciate you so much, but we just ask for your help, and we thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Shatrine. Joe Haverkamp, you're up.
I wasn't going to talk this evening, got allergies from the flowers, but I think that we have not paid attention to the seniors. I think that what we're doing is we're scaring the seniors to death, so what they're doing is staying in their home. And then there's so many of them. I live in a retirement community, and we have not had one case. But I think that we have to have some way of reaching seniors so they don't think the world is coming to the end, because that's what they think. It's just a matter of time before they're going to get it. I have not taken the shot. I'm 81 years old. I don't intend to take the shot because of the uncertainty. All over the nation, people have got sick, people have died. So I just feel that we're overzealous in closing everything down. Bree Sagdell, she moved here from here to South Dakota. No masks, no COVID, and they operate just like there's nothing going on. In Iowa, I have a friend, no masks, they just live normal. They said, what you have to do, you have to contain your people downtown Portland, the one that's setting the fires and tearing down the buildings. They have to have some law and order for that, and then you could just take the masks off, give it a chance, take the masks off, instead of getting so, the carbon dioxide that you keep inside that mask is unhealthy. I was in the medical field. It's very unhealthy for seniors to keep it in, not breathe, because you can't possibly, well, that's why I have this, so I can breathe a little. So that's what I have to say. Just think of your seniors too.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. We're going to go to Zoom here in a second. I just want to say one thing, and that is that in any of our letters and the testimony apparently here tonight thus far, I just wanted to say we respect the governor's decision to open the schools, and there's nothing in our letters or in our intent to suggest that the governor do otherwise. So I've seen the kids in my neighborhood, I've seen the parents a lot happier to see their kids smiling and playing. And so we acknowledge that. We acknowledge the need to get the schools open and to normalize. So I want everyone to know that there's no suggestion that we're asking the schools to shut down. We're just asking for more enforcement, messaging to the younger folks to mask up and take the precautions to just protect all of us. The other thing I wanted to say is that Clackamas is in a unique position. We didn't get the full share or much of a share of the CARES Act dollars like Multnomah County and Washington County did. So our businesses didn't get that assistance. Most of the counties in the state didn't experience the forest fires. Most of them didn't, but we have. Most of the counties in the state didn't experience the ice storm, but we did. Our businesses did. Our businesses suffered more and gotten and received less assistance from the state due to this CARES Act funding and everything else. So our businesses are more vulnerable in Clackamas County than they are in our neighboring counties. So, Christina, let's shift over to some Zoom comments.
Thank you, Vice Chair Savas. So what I'll ask is if the attendees would like to speak, just go ahead and raise your hand, and I will call on you on order. To start with, we will head over to Michael Weber. Michael Weber, if you can unmute yourself and give your name and area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Michael Weber, Clackamas County, Oak Lodge area. Thank you, Chair Smith, Commissioners Savas, Schrader, Fisher, and Schall. Tonight, you are considering a draft letter on COVID-19 to send to Governor Brown. We are in a deadly race right now. Either enough people get vaccinated and we continue to take precautionary measures until we have sufficient social immunity to stop the virus spread, or the variants will overwhelm us. The entire Board of Commissioners should be consistently emphasizing at every possible opportunity, get vaccinated, wear your mask, and keep social distancing. We can win this race, but not without everyone's help. Yet we have one commissioner who wrote, "Take off your mask and get back to work," and spreads memes calling COVID precautions a psychological operation. We have another commissioner who claimed that we are brainwashed into wearing masks and takes every opportunity to emphasize that you don't have to get vaccinated. No one wants COVID restrictions. I dream of the day I will be able to eat in restaurants with my friends and family. I also listen to the scientists and public health experts who understand how diseases spread and how to control them. And I understand that the only way out of a cycle of changing social and business restrictions is to get social immunity. The edits that were added in red to the fourth draft letter represent exactly the wrong message. They are inflammatory, partisan, and based neither on facts nor science. When you consider your letter, please stick to what the public health experts recommend, not what you feel is politically expedient. And please spend as much time discussing how you can improve and increase your messaging to the public so that one day, sometime soon, we can all gather safely and celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. It looks like it's Christine Kennedy. Christine, go ahead and unmute yourself, state your name and area of residence, and you have 3 minutes. Christine, are you there? We're not hearing from you, and I do see that you're unmuted. You know what I'll do is I will move on to the next, and then we'll come right back to you. So the next is going to be Les Poole. Les, go ahead and unmute yourself, state your name and your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name is Les Poole. I live in Gladstone, and I do support the spirit of what I'm hearing this evening. And, you know, a year ago, when the shutdown started and the emergency was declared, I was at the county meeting when that occurred in March, and I made a brief statement, and it was that we were going to see some overkill. And I believe that this evening's meeting really reflects that. And with all due respect to Mr. Weber, I've got considerable experience in air filtration, purification, clean rooms. I understand the difference between a generic mask, a handkerchief, both of which are more of a panacea than a protection, and true filtration. So when it comes to science, some of the things that are coming out of the state are not supported by it. And there's never been a true minimum standard set for the mask mandate, the facial covering mandate as it's called. And there's been some erratic counting and erratic numbers and things that have come out in the past. So I do think we need to move forward cautiously and respectfully. But no matter what we do, we need to stand up for Clackamas County. It's just an absolute must. And I agree with Ms. Haverkamp. Her expression about the riots, and as I've stated recently, those riots are causing us undue additional pain, economic suffering, and embarrassment on a worldwide basis. And I'm just deeply concerned about what's going on there, the lack of anyone speaking out. So we need to make a statement about that. And the last thing I'll say very briefly is that a couple of weeks ago, I requested that Commissioner Fisher provide any examples of conduct that she claims Commissioner Scholl has been guilty of since he was elected. And I'm curious by the end of the meeting, or at the end of the meeting, if she could share them with us. That's a situation that's really got me troubled. So much going on out there, and thank you as always.
All right, thank you, Les.
I just want to remind everyone that the topic here tonight for this part of the public session is this COVID letter, or the letter to the governor. So there's opportunity at the end of the meeting to talk about things that are not related to the letter.
Thank you very much for that. I do see Christine Kennedy has hopped back on, so we'll go ahead and allow you to talk. If you can unmute yourself and state your name and area of residence, and you have 3 minutes. Oh, shoot, Christine, I don't think that we are hearing you, unfortunately. Yeah, we don't hear anything, unfortunately. We can always try and get back to you at the end of public comment as well. And it looks like we have one last hand up. Yvonne Lazarus, go ahead and unmute yourself. State your name and your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, it's Yvonne Lazarus, and I live in Oak Grove. I feel sorry for all of our businesses because, you know, those owners, not only with the problems that they have in keeping their business together, they also have a conscience, excuse me, and a love for those people who work for them. And when they have to hand them a pink slip over and over, what do you think that does to everybody? The businesses, please tell her they've got to open. They've got to open so people can have some kind of bright sunshine. It just has to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Okay, thank you.
And it looks like that's the end of.
Okay, thank you. So Gary, just for clarification, the letter that Commissioner Schrader and I worked on that does not have any red markups on it, when I saw it, what version is that? What number is that?
It's labeled version 3 online.
Version 3, okay, thank you.
Second to the last letter in the meeting packet.
Okay. So looks like we're at the end of public testimony, and I will take any comments from my colleagues. And Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, thank you. On the COVID risk level change, Saturday, it will have been 13 months since the governor first shut down schools and businesses in the state. 2 days ago, she decided to move the county from moderate back to high risk level. and the greater restrictions on business that come with it. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. We cannot accept it. People must be allowed to work and prosper. No amount of CARES Act money.
This sounds so bad.
On the COVID risk level change, Saturday it will have been 13 months since the governor first shut down schools and businesses in the state. 2 days ago, she decided the county should move from moderate back to high risk level and the greater restrictions on businesses that come with it. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. We cannot accept it. People must be allowed to work and prosper. No amount of CARES Act money, federal money, state money can replace the industry of the people. The recent rise in cases has been attributed to after-school activities, not business activity. Why should business suffer? We need to continue our steps to protect from COVID. Our efforts are impressive and we're making headway. We will live with COVID as we have lived with other diseases in the past, but we cannot live without work, jobs, business, and the hope that come from freedom to work. I support the letter to the governor. Version 3, I think, is good, and I think Chair Smith, if she read it, she would agree. I also would request that Vice Chair Savas call the governor tonight, and I urge every citizen to contact the governor and your state legislator and resist this risk level change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Schull, I see a light on, Christina.
Yes, Commissioner Fisher has her hand up.
Commissioner Fisher.
Hey, thank you, Commissioner Savas. And I just want to say a thank you to you and Commissioner Schrader and staff on doing the hard work of coming up with version 3. I think it's really important that we send this letter tonight. I have been, the main point for me that has very much concerned me is that I believe we all were under the understanding that we would have a 2-week cautionary period before moving a risk level. And we were not granted that, and it's of a great concern. So I think we need to get that message loud and clear to the governor. Another point is, Commissioner Savas, you articulately stated that Clackamas County did not get a direct allocation at the beginning of this pandemic, which means our businesses that have suffered most from COVID have been disproportionately harmed versus other large jurisdictions of Portland, Multnomah County, and Washington County. So what I would like to suggest, and I don't want to change this letter, I mean, I'm okay with it going as it is, but what I would like to suggest possibly in a future communication is that that Clackamas County be made whole from the state's allocation of the most recent COVID dollars and an additional direct allocation so that we can determine which businesses have been most harmed from this restriction, and we can support those businesses financially. So those would be my 2 cents. I'm okay moving forward with version 3. I did check with Philip. I wanted to make sure that this letter was in alignment with our public health, that there's nothing in contradiction with what our public health director recommends. And so I am good with version 3.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher, and thank you for clarifying that we worked with our, Commissioner Schrader and I worked with our public health director and Nancy Bush, our emergency operations manager. So staff have looked this over. I think it's consistent. We're keeping in mind and bearing in mind the safety of the public. We're not asking the governor to do anything crazy, frankly. And if it turns out that the adjustment is monetary, that would help. Hopefully there's more messaging to that other cohort. We're asking for basic things like that. I will just say one thing. In all due respect, Chair Smith, I'm concerned that if we don't send a letter tonight and get this message across, and the governor speaks tomorrow, and she makes a commitment to proceed with what she's done, that'll be hard for her to change course, politically hard for change course, and the message to those employees and those businesses will be too late. So I think the time is urgent, but I would really like to hear what you have to say. I would really like to have your support. I think it'd be powerful. I'm sensing that we have almost a majority consensus to send this letter tonight and respect the urgency at hand. So could you please chime in, Commissioner Smith, or Chair Smith?
Yes, Paul, thank you for that. If it's the wish of the majority of the commission to send it, then by all means, send the letter. However, I'm going to reserve the right to send my own letter with my own messaging, because as I said before, what I mentioned looks forward to the future. I believe the letter that you folks want to send is probably a good letter. It is very emotionally felt, but there comes a time, people, that we're going to have to draw a line in the sand and move forward, possibly with our own metrics and our own way of doing things, because we need balance. And I think that the people who testified tonight from the Chambers of Commerce I hope the letter reflects that. I've been extremely indisposed because of some personal reasons that, neither here nor there. But if the majority of the commission wants to send the letter, then by all means do so. But keep in mind, we don't know exactly what the governor is going to say or do tomorrow. And if she changes her mind based on our letter, then there you go. It's a huge victory. So if the majority of the board wants to send it, I support your efforts.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I appreciate it. Is there any other comment from the board, my colleagues? Seeing none, I'd certainly entertain a motion for approval of the letter.
Vice Chair Savas, I move that we send version number 3 to the governor tonight.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Schrader, is that a second?
Yep.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Christina, could you take the poll?
Yes. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Vice Chair Savas?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chair Smith, for your support. I guess we'll now move on. County Administrator Schmidt, what do we have next?
Yes, so we will send this letter to the governor tonight. We'll copy you, commissioners, as soon as it's sent out, and we will get it moving. What was that? Commissioner Fisher has her hand up, Vice Chair.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Vice Chair Savas. So this was step one. We cannot take our foot off the pedal of step two, which is really focusing on what we can do at the local level to continue to engage with our community and act as swiftly and quickly as we can to give certainty to the members in our community on how we are going to be able to proceed. So Gary, I don't hate to put you on the spot here, but can you just weigh in on that and what are our immediate next steps before we leave this topic?
Well, that's up to you as well, commissioners. We're receiving these funds from the federal government, which we've not gotten yet, but that's going to be an immediate help. And part of that component is funding for small businesses, which is your decision to make, but staff's going to recommend that. We've not received those dollars yet, and our staff is still working on proposals for those funds. Depending on the letter we send to the governor and the reaction, there could be further activities by the commissioners in the coming week to still advocate for small businesses in our community. I think the letter's not the end, that's just the beginning of how you can advocate for our community. That is kind of put me on the spot, Commissioner. I'll have to think more about that for next week for you.
Yeah, if I could just follow up with that. Gary, you and staff have done an excellent job in laying out a framework for how we were going to address the direct allocation. But it's almost like it got turbocharged with us stepping back. And so with that, I believe we need to up our engagement, our connection, and our strategy to act more swiftly. If that's possible to do. I know we've been in a constant state of emergency.
We can do that, Commissioner.
For a
yes.
while.
Yes.
Is that Commissioner Schrader?
Yes.
Yeah, Commissioner Schrader, love to hear your comments and also add in about the BRC opportunities to help make those connections.
Yeah, essentially, I'd like to bring this up under issues as soon as possible, but I think our business and community development folks can come up with some ideas, I hope, in close collaboration with the chambers about what relief would look like as soon as possible. And that hasn't been fleshed out yet. Again, as I said earlier, we have done a fantastic job with the most vulnerable in our populations, with housing and with the issues we're dealing with, houselessness. It's time for us to step up to the plate for Main Street in a similar way. And again, we're trying to thread the needle between appropriate public health protocols and making sure that our business community remains whole. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I honestly think we really need to pull that, convene that conversation directly with our business community, because they're the ones that know what they need, when they need it, how they need it, and what they need to do to continue to keep employees employed and whole. So that's just kind of my, again, soapbox for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Gary, on this topic, is there anything else you need from us?
No, we're good for tonight.
Okay, great, thank you. Next up?
The next item also is an addition to the agenda, and it is a statement of solidarity for our Asian American and Pacific Islander community to comment and acknowledge the discrimination and violence that has occurred in our nation and our state recently. You did approve a draft statement this Tuesday. The staff made an addition at your request to put in resources for support and how to report any concerns. We have done that. The document is online, and Christina will post it here shortly, but we're seeking your approval to approve this statement tonight, Commissioners.
Okay. Any comments or thoughts on this resolution?
Can we read the resolution, please?
Yeah, Martha, do you have it in front of you by chance, the resolution?
No, I
Okay,
don't,
okay.
unfortunately.
We're going to put it online, though. We'll put it on the screen here.
Yeah, so I'm happy to read it. And yeah, please put it online as well so people can read it. When we wear these masks, it's like a muffler, so, you know, it can't wait to point in time where you don't need these masks. So I'm going to read the resolution. The Clackamas County Board of Commissioners joins our voices to acknowledge the anti-Asian American and Pacific Islander AAPI discrimination, harassment, and violence that has been occurring in our nation. Since the start of the pandemic, there has been an uptick in these incidents across the United States and in Oregon as well. We recognize that these events are not happening in a vacuum, but have been a long part of a long history of anti-Asian discrimination. To our Clackamas County Asian and Pacific Islander residents, we stand with you. We are committed to ensuring safe, healthy, and secure communities for all people of Clackamas County. With this commitment, we continue to engage in the effort to combat racism as we have resolved to do so in our resolution condemning violence and racism, and that's dated June 30th of 2020. Listening to the needs of the adversely impacted community, the resolution dated June 2020, listening to the needs of adversely impacted communities. We recognize we have much work to do in this endeavor. We are grateful for the partnership with our advisory body, the leaders of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council, whose role is to elevate the voices of those who have been underrepresented and underserved. We will continue to work toward the goal of ensuring Clackamas County is a place where people thrive and have a sense of safety, connection, and belonging, so that everyone is honored and celebrated for the richness and diversity they bring. To Asian American and Pacific Islander community residents, employees, and visitors to Clackamas County, the Board of County Commissioners and the Clackamas County Equity and Inclusion Office are here and committed to supporting you. Additionally, if you have experienced bias, discrimination, and/or harassment, please refer to the following resources on the screen for any kind of support. So if you all can see that, thank you, Christine. And that's the resolution that we have at hand. Would any of my colleagues like to make a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Moved by Commissioner Schrader, seconded by Commissioner Scholl. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Christina, could you please take the floor?
Yes. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Vice Chair Savis?
Aye.
And we still do have Chair Smith on here, so I'm going to call her as well. Chair Smith?
I vote yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. It is approved. The motion is approved, and our commitment is now in the record. Thank you.
I do, Commissioner Fisher does have her hand raised.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I couldn't get my raise hand in quick. You did the discussion and then moved us, so I couldn't do it that fast. So Gary, I'm just interested, I would like to know if we're posting this on social media, if commissioners could get a link so we could post it on our own personal or commission social media, or how we will be distributing
Yes,
these
we'll
comments so that
do
we
all
get it
those
out to the
things.
public.
Yes, Commissioner, we'll do all those things. It may not be till, I don't know, Commissioners, because technically staff's off. They work 4/10s and they're done for the day, they're done for the week, but I'll see if we can get it done tonight or tomorrow morning. And we'll let you know when it's done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. So with that, Gary, actually, we have a public hearing.
All right, so now we're back to the actual agenda that was posted, and our first item is a public hearing. It is a public hearing on the proposed Community Development 2021 Action Plan. Rodney Cook, the Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services, and Mark Soroy, Community Development Director, will present. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Vice Chair Paul Savis, Commissioners, Administrator Schmidt. For the record, my name is Rodney Cook, Interim Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services. We're here tonight to hold a public hearing on the 2021 Action Plan that includes the 2021 funding recommendations as well. I have here with me Mark Soroy, Manager of Community Development, that is here to speak to the issue.
Vice Chair Savis and Commissioners, my name is Mark Soroy. I'm a manager with the Community Development Division. As you may know, this week is National Community Development Week. So I'm here to present to you the action plan, which is essentially an application to HUD for our annual funding for CDBG funds, Community Development Block Grant Funds, Home Partnership Investment Funds, which builds housing units, and the Emergency Solutions Grant Funds. The board does not need to take any action today. This draft plan was published for comment on March 25th. The 30-day comment period will end on April 26th. After the comment period, staff will finalize this plan and incorporate those public comments and present that final plan to this board for approval at the May 6th meeting. The action plan is due to HUD, the application is due to HUD on May 15th. I will just briefly summarize some of the things we've done the past year, summarize some of the plans we have for this coming year, and then we can open it up for public comment. In this past year, we've been worked with the Children's Commission to complete a Head Start classroom on River Road. We finished it in December. The Children's Commission was going to have an open house, but due to COVID, there's been no open house. So hopefully, in the future, you all can be invited to that open house. We are working with the City of Sandy to complete an ADA sidewalks project. And we are also working with the City of Estacada to complete an ADA sidewalk project. We're also working with the Molalla Senior Center to renovate a heating, ventilation, and cooling system, and we're also working with the Estacada Community Center to replace their rooftop heating and cooling system. So that summarized what we've done this past year. We also operate a housing rehabilitation program that involves providing grants and loans to low-income homeowners to repair their homes or to make their homes accessible so they can easily get in and out of their homes and around their homes if they have a disability. And that program also, because we loan money out to low-income homeowners, and this past year, the mortgage interest rates have dropped really low, so that many of those loans have been paid back. So that money paid back to our office, over $400,000, has been reinvested into the program, and we've provided more loans and grants to homeowners. So that's our housing rehabilitation program. In the coming year, we plan to do more ADA sidewalk projects in Gladstone. We plan to work with the City of Sandy to do ADA improvements at their City Hall, and we also plan to work with the City of West Lynn to do an ADA improvements to a historic building, which they're going to convert to a cultural center. And we're also planning another Head Start improvement project out in the City of Estacada as well. So that concludes our past and our future projects. And at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the plan. Also, let you know that I did receive testimony letters, which I've provided to Christina, that you may have in your packet. I've gotten letters from the City of Estacada, City of Molalla, City of Sandy, and then there was a letter from the Salvation Army. So once again, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the plan and request that you open it up for a public hearing to take any comments.
Great. Do I have any questions for my colleagues? Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, the ADA sidewalk projects, is that paid for by federal money that is earmarked specifically for those types of projects?
Correct. The Community Development Block Grant provides federal funds for those types of projects. And our agreements that come before this board, our intergovernmental agreements, explain what the project is and how much of it we can provide with federal funds. And typically, we fund up to 80% of the cost of the project. So our partners, cities or nonprofits, provide some funding to complete the project.
Okay, thank you.
Great. This has always been a great program. I always really enjoyed this. It's done a lot of community benefit. To qualify for this, there's typically low-income areas or low-income requirements. So really the most needy are getting some of these critical projects, but are really small in size and scale to a lot of other projects. So I see a light on.
Commissioner Fisher has her hand raised.
Commissioner Fisher, your comments, and then we'll go to the public hearing.
Thank you, Vice Chair Savas. I'm curious if you could just give a little bit, I appreciate the detail that you provided on your overview, but I'm curious a little more detail on the Jansen Road project and the Love Inc. project.
Yes, the Love Inc. project was, for last year, we had provided a grant to the Love Inc. project, but that one didn't work out because we were working on our agreement. Love Inc. is a nonprofit that wanted to build a facility to provide homeless services, but they didn't own the land. The landowner was involved, so we talked about the need to have a long-term lease for that land and kind of the requirements of the federal funding, such as paying a what's called prevailing wage on the project. So the landowner and the nonprofit decided to forego the loan, or the grant rather, and they're going to pursue other funds to kind of build that facility. So they decided to cancel. But I did open it up to them to say, come back again when we reopen our funding applications in a year or so. And as far as the Jansen Road project that's listed there, that is a property owned by the Housing Authority that's in disrepair that they would like to remodel. So that grant would be to the Housing Authority to remodel that. I believe it's 8 apartments that they want to convert to 9 apartments and remodel other things around that facility.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? And we'll go to the public hearing then. Okay, So with that, I will open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter. Christina, is there anyone on Zoom?
I have one person with their hand raised on Zoom. Denise Carey, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself and state your name and area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Denise Carey, and I'm the city manager for the city of Estacada. And I just wanted to, I did send in a letter, and as you all heard, Estacada has a lot of projects going on that are funded with the CDBG program. But I just wanted to let you know how vital it is to our community, and it has been for many years. I've been in Estacada for 30 years, and this program has been key in getting some projects done that we would not have been able to do. I know Mr. Sava said they're small amounts, but to Estacada, the amounts are large, and they really help us get projects done that we would not be able to do. And I also am grateful for the staff there at Clackamas County. They are the ones that administer the projects, and some of the complexities of the projects we could not do without the staff there. Mark and his staff, our main contacts are Steve Kelly and Amy Council and Mark, and they all do a great job for us. And I just wanted to let you know how important this program is for communities such as Estacada.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Denise. And I do see we have one other hand raised, Yvonne Lazarus. Yvonne, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
We're in communications now, aren't we?
No, we are in the public hearing for I was going to say CBDG grants, but that's not the name
I'm
of it.
sorry, I'm gonna unmute. I want the communications. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Proposed Community Development 2021 Action Plan.
All right, so that is it for the public communication.
Okay, see no other comments, no one stepping up. I'll close the public hearing and ask my colleagues if there's any questions or for staff or comments or a motion.
You need a,
Do they need a motion, Christina?
do you need a motion?
No, I'm sorry, this is just going,
Yeah.
the rest of the public comment period, just the last. bit
Okay,
of
I'm
the
sorry.
script.
I moved down the line and I moved down the line to the next one. I'm sorry. So I close the public hearing, so I will, the public comment period will last on this matter until April 26th. We will take action on this item at our May 6th business meeting. Gary, what's next?
All right, thank you, Rod and Mark, very
Thank
much.
you, Commissioners.
Next is the consent agenda, and I'll ask Christina to please read the consent agenda by title only.
And we only have one item on this consent agenda today. It's the Department of Transportation and Development, approval of a contract with Baker Rock Crushing Company Incorporated, doing business as Baker Rock Resources, for the All Roads Transportation Safety Rural Systemic Safety Project. Contract value of $929,648.65, which is budgeted in the DTD project, coming from county road funds of $72,326.67, and ODOT Arts grants at $857,321.99. And that is your consent agenda.
Great. Does any commissioner wish to remove any items? Okay. Can I have a motion?
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Christina, could you take the poll, please?
Yes, Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And Vice Chair Savas?
Aye.
And Chair Smith is off of the call for now.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All righty. So the consent agenda is approved, and I guess now that brings us to public communications. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So anyone who wants to speak on public comment period, now's your time. So we'll take the in-person testimony first, followed by the virtual Zoom testimony. So Koala Torfi? Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Kobla
Okay. And your last name, how do you pronounce that?
is Tosu.
Okay.
Torsu.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Chair Smith, fellow commissioners, unalienable rights, freedom of speech, they cannot be taken away by anyone. Oppressed freedom of speech has kept the continent of Africa sadly stagnant, where I come from. I am honored to be in the United States of America to experience the expression of freedom in free speech. Mark Shaw did express his freedom of speech rightfully. It is my belief that the commissioners are required to follow the Constitution also. Thank you very much. My name is Kobla Tete Tosu from Westland. Good evening.
Thank you. Christina, do we have any online testimony?
We do. We will start with Christine Kennedy. It looks like she is back on, and we're going to try and hear her this time. So Christine, if you can unmute yourself.
All right.
Oh, perfect. We can hear you.
This is Christine Kennedy. I'm from Lake Oswego. I've been a resident of Clackamas County for 7 years. Vice Chair Savas and other commissioners and Administrator Schmidt, I just would like to express my condolences to the family of the 5 people who have passed away from COVID since April 1st. It is really a difficult time. People have worked so hard for the last year to try to stay healthy and get healthy. And public health is it's not an easy thing because it means my health affects your health. And that's exactly where we are right now, is we're toward the end. We need to listen to our public health people. Good job, Clackamas County, on the vaccination clinics. Thank you, Commissioner Shull, for attending one of the clinics and getting your vaccination. And I think that this is really an area where we're going to continue to need to work with people to encourage them to get their vaccinations. We're not through this yet, and we can't pretend that we are, which I think some people really would like to do. So, I am interested in learning more about the variants because I think this really is a significant issue that we need to be more aware of and the risk that it's presenting to younger people. We need to pay attention, and you are, and I encourage you to continue to put your efforts into the money that's available to us from the American Rescue Plan. It's time to move ahead. I agree it wasn't good form on Governor Brown's part to say you have 2 weeks, and then it ended up not being 2 weeks. I have a feeling that that's probably because she has significant concern about what's happening in the state. She's become unpopular because of her stand, but we are, as a state, much better off than about 45 other states in the union. So thank you, Governor Brown, and I think it's time to stop the opposition and the partisan talk. And y'all know who is doing it. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other comments?
We have 3 other commenters. So we'll go, next up is Yvonne Lazarus. Yvonne, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Good Good evening, Commissioners. Last night, I want to thank Selma for her Citizens Informed and Aware message that she puts out. Because of it, I found a meeting about housing on there, and it sent me right to it. And it was quite interesting. You know, if there's no business, there's no work, and then we have homelessness. It's 1, 2, 3. That's just how it is. We need to all pull together. I know that somebody who called in said that federal regulations work against us. I don't understand the workings of that, but I would sure like to know. And when I spoke last night, I wasn't going to speak, and I just did, because I have been looking for a one-bedroom. I do hope that you will think about building these. They don't have to have a lot of gingerbread. That's what I wanted to say, because we have a big problem here, and it all runs into each other. If they don't open the businesses up, people are going to get laid off. And, you know, some people are going to go right into being homeless. It is a fact. I heard Paul say something. I can't remember exactly how you said it, Paul, so I'll just have to know that I heard it. And I agreed completely with you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. Next up is going to be Bill Ware. Bill, go ahead and unmute yourself. State your name and area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Vice Chair Savas and Commissioners. My name is Bill Ware from Damascus. Last week, I mentioned in my testimony about the $10,000 check that was given by a Clackamas County Public Employees Union to the Friends of Sonia Fisher campaign account. Since that time, several people have contacted me to clarify my statement. So when I testified, it's on February 2nd, a check in the amount of $10,000 was given to the Friends of Sonia Fisher campaign fund by AFSCME Local 75, which is out of Salem. It's Local 350 represents 700 employees of municipalities within Clackamas County, including 300 directly employed by the county itself. 2 weeks earlier, this public employee union, in a lengthy letter dated January 15th, the very next day after the censure of Mr. Schul by this commission, wrote this commission demanding immediate resignation by Commissioner Schul, deeming censure as insufficient. What makes this $10,000 given to the Friends of Sonia Fisher campaign account stand out is the largesse of the amount and the timing. This public employees union, for the last 5 years, has given approximately a total net of $9,250 to other commissioners, plus $1,250 to Commissioner Fisher in 2018. In other words, the $10,000 given to Commissioner Fisher in one donation in this off-election year is more than the amount given to all of the commissioners over a 5-year period. In the meantime, arguably the most rabid in the effort to unseat Commissioner Schul, Commissioner Fisher has given $5,000 this year to a progressive political campaign advisory company so far this year. My unanswered questions from last week are, since the only campaign I'm aware of is the effort to recall Commissioner Schul, are you participating in this recall through your campaign fund, and are you a lobbyist for the public employees? Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. We have one last person And it looks like that's going to be Les Poole. Les, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes. Les, you're not quite unmuted yet. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
All right. Hey, thank you. I wanted to just briefly mention, getting some feedback here, I apologize, but briefly mention that last week I spoke about the conditions up in the woods and in the forest, and I want to reiterate that folks are unaware of how many roads are closed and the fact that above Estacada and elsewhere in the county, we've got some tremendous damage. So I just wanted to get that in. My other comments I expressed earlier, so thank you for your time.
Thank you, Les. All right, so that is the end of my list.
Okay, great. So I will close this portion of the public communication for this meeting, and we'll move on. Gary?
Next, Commissioners, is County Administrator update, and I will present this. First, Commissioners, I signed 2 contracts on your behalf under the authority of the COVID-19 Emergency Declaration, number 2020-14, and I'm seeking your ratification of those contracts. First, it was for disaster management. I signed a contract on April 6, 2021, which is an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County and Washington County for COVID-19 respite shelter as required by state law. The amendment adds $140,300 to this contract, which now has a maximum contract value of $549,125. This is entirely paid from CARES Act funding. No general funds are involved. The contract is extended until June 30th, 2021. Second, I signed a contract today, April 8th, 2021, also for disaster management, an intergovernmental agreement with the Canby Fire District and the Molalla Fire District for COVID-19 testing and vaccine administration. The maximum contract value is $150,000 per fire district. Funding is through state CARES funds, funded through the local public health authority. No general funds are involved. This agreement lasts until December 31st, 2021. So I'm seeking your ratification of those 2 contracts I signed on your behalf.
Okay. Any discussion? Is there anyone like to make a motion?
I move to ratify these items.
Is there a second?
Commissioner. Yeah.
Okay, it's moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Schrader to ratify those items. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Christina, could you take the poll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And Vice Chair Savas?
Aye. The motion carries. It's ratified.
Thank you. And I have one quick item for good news this week, and that is Portland General Electric through the Portland General Electric Foundation. Earlier, a few months ago, pledged to give $225,000 to nonprofit organizations within Clackamas County for those organizations who support people who were hardest hit by the February ice storm. Commissioners, as you know, Clackamas County suffered the greatest of any county in the state of Oregon, followed closely by Marion County. But our 2 counties had the biggest impact from this ice storm than any other county in Oregon. And Portland General Electric, when the Chief Executive Officer, Maria Pope, came to speak to you a few weeks ago, committed to give $225,000 to these nonprofits, and that has now happened. And so $75,000 of that amount came directly to Clackamas County nonprofits. And they are Love Incorporated of Clackamas County and the Hope Food Pantry. Each will receive $5,000. Love One, Northwest Family Services, and Bridging Cultures will each receive $15,000. And Clackamas County Meals on Wheels will receive $20,000. Portland General Electric put an emphasis on supporting nonprofits that helped customers during the storm and those organizations serving low-income residents, seniors, veterans, and others needing assistance with basic needs. So thank you to Portland General Electric, the Portland General Electric Foundation, and Chief Executive Officer Maria Pope and her staff for speaking to the board a few weeks ago and making this commitment. It's greatly appreciated. That's my update, Commissioners.
Thank you, Gary. So next up is Commissioner Communication. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, thank you. On COVID vaccinations, one quick kudo to the county. I visited the Sandy High School vaccination site last Saturday, put on by Clackamas County Public Health and Disaster Management, with help from the Oregon Trail School District and personnel for traffic control provided by the Ant Farm. 1,200 people got vaccinated that day, and I talked to many of them, and they were very impressed with the level of organization and the very friendly accommodations that they got from the people from the county. Good job on that. And also on homelessness. Yesterday we held the town hall on homelessness. There were 120 people on the Zoom call. I was impressed with the level of knowledge, experience, and the recommendations for action. I am convinced we have the ideas. Now we must formulate a plan to begin alleviating this problem, and we need to implement the plan now. $24 million in funds from Measure 26-210 will start to come into the county later this year, followed by $55 million per year for the 9 years after that. The people are providing the money through their taxes. Now we must provide them with a plan that will make every dollar count to actually alleviate homelessness. What we build in the way of housing must be built on the foundation of addressing the root causes of homelessness, so that our investment will help alleviate the problem and not just create another never-ending, expensive government program. We must ensure we don't just build high-rise apartments that are built on the public dime. Those projects the taxpayers pay for, maintain, pay the rent and the insurance. We must also create housing solutions that people can qualify to buy. Projects that you, the taxpayer, won't be asked to pay for. Low-cost projects that build homes that people are able to purchase, that create home ownership, better futures, and dignity. So I know we got a lot of work here. I know the county staff has already done a lot of work, but now it's time to make things happen. Take this money and actually work to solve this problem. And I want to be a part of it, and I encourage anybody out there who hears us tonight to send us an email or send me an email at markshaw@clackamas.us with ideas so we can get on with this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Next up, Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on what Commissioner Scholl was saying, because that was an incredible town hall with, I think, was it 121 people participating? I think that was probably our best attended town hall to date, and dynamic conversation, really good ideas, and I echo the commitment that we have to make sure that we are good stewards of the homeless services measure. So tonight, I am excited to say that tomorrow I get to have the honor and privilege of representing our county commission at the legislature in the Ways and Means Capital Construction Committee to talk about our courthouse. And part of what makes me so excited about sharing my 1.5 to 2 minutes with the committee, it's not long, it's like boom, 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 is this board's commitment to this effort. So I don't need to remind my colleagues, but I do want to just state publicly that we approved our commitment to the courthouse project through approving our legislative agenda, which we did unanimously as a board. And we also included the courthouse funding, or not the courthouse funding, but the courthouse project in our strategic priorities, which we have 10 strategic priorities, of which looking at our whole public safety system and including the courthouse, which is an absolutely fundamental part of our safety net system. So that is good news. I will be happy to share that with my fellow elected leaders in the legislature tomorrow. And I guess a couple points I want to mention. So we all have seen Judge Kathy Steele walk around with her 3-foot, I'm trying to do this on Zoom, don't know if I can demonstrate it, 3-foot yardstick, and to show how close the back of the courthouse is to the Willamette River. And also the very important fact that underneath the ground of the courthouse it would liquefy in the event of an earthquake. And this doesn't even mention the challenges of capacity that our current courthouse has now, and that we don't have enough judges currently with our population for the number of cases that need to be heard. And we all know, and I will tell you from personal experience, the idea of doing legal court trials and court issues virtually is no substitute for actually being in a courtroom. It is an absolute, fundamental, essential part of our service. So we are going to move forward. The state will pay for half of the cost of this courthouse with bonding, and that's what the testimony will be tomorrow. And then we commissioners, we continue, we're rolling up our sleeves. We've got another policy session here coming up in a couple of weeks to further look at the P3 financing measure, which will allow us a process to come up with our share, which we have been committed to do. So with that, I would love it if I can see Commissioner Schrader. I would love to see a thumbs up for this courthouse effort, and I see her smile. And if my colleagues there in the room could also give me a thumbs up, that'll give me the inspiration and impetus to go represent us full force tomorrow in the Capital Construction Committee.
Get the money.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I would just say, Commissioner Fisher, is that I support the courthouse. How we fund it is, I think, something we still yet to navigate. So whether it's a P3 or not a P3, but I think I still am just reserving my opinion on that once I see all the data, because I want to do the best we can for our taxpayers. And so support the courthouse. You got my thumbs up.
Absolutely, Vice Chair Savas. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yes, following on Commissioner Fisher, I also support a courthouse because I have a daughter who's a prosecutor. She's in Boston, but quite frankly, I would not want her to be in the current courthouse we have. I know that's kind of a personal thing for me. The building's old. Any kind of a seismic event, it would pretty much fall into the river. So it's more than just wanting a new building as much as it, for me, is a safety issue for the people who support and the people who maintain our justice system in the county. And I do know that not all of us become part of that system for one reason or another, but those of us who do, for one reason or another, they need a safe space. They need something that is workable. They need a spot where juries are safe, where the judges feel safe, and where, a new building or whatever we decide to do gives people the space and the safety they need in order to make our court system work. It's kind of the unseen hand of justice, which is sometimes why I think it's hard to get that point across. But it is really one of the foundations of what we do in our county, in the state, in this country, to make sure that justice is served. So thank you for that, Commissioner Fisher. The other quick comment I will make, I think the highlight of my week was that I was at a meeting today with Estacada Connects, which brings together all the partnerships in our rural areas that are dealing with houselessness and social service delivery systems. They are absolutely fantastic. Lynn Dreschler really helps convene these meetings. And my hope is that as we move forward with dollars that are going to be helping our urban areas within the urban growth boundary, that we are also going to make sure that our rural communities get the same support they need to deal with people who need housing, houselessness, and the social service wraparound services. I felt very good today after listening to the comments from the various groups that were there. And I think that there is real potential in Estacada to come up with a model of how we're going to do mixed-use housing in a rural community that involves access to services, libraries, and also transit and bus services. I mean, so keep the thumbs up that our rural communities are in as much need as our urban communities when it comes to these issues. So that's all I have for the night. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank my colleagues for the helping in the discussion today with regard to the letter to the governor. I was driving here this evening and at the beginning of the meeting, really worried that we'd be here wordsmithing in the wee hours of the night and trying to find that middle ground. But we came together and I think we did so in some very efficient time. So thank you so much for that. Also want to thank the staff support for putting that letter together today, and Drenda's not here today. I want to thank Drenda for the extra work she did today. Nancy, Philip, Gary, everyone who helped with that, I really appreciate it. I too was very moved by the listening session last night, and I was actually this morning, I actually walked twice the distance I normally walk just to calm down a little bit. And I wasn't upset, I was just moved. And I think part of it is because I feel as though I've been trying to get at the root causes of this for a long time. And I've done a lot of research in that regard. And I spoke last night pretty passionately about drug and alcohol treatment. That drives people into homelessness. And some people that don't fall into homelessness from drug or alcohol or mental health issues, and they fall into homeless because of economic issues, become, addicted perhaps to drug or alcohol and develop mental health issues, so it compounds it. That crisis of being homeless is earth-shaking to a lot of people. And some of us are more resilient than others, and some of us just struggle with that, and especially if you have family members and so forth. So the stress of that really is painful for a lot of people. While I'm pleased that we have the Metro Measure dollars for building housing, though it's limited, while I'm pleased we have the supportive services measure to provide the wraparound services, and while I pleaded all along the way during each of those development of those programs, pleading for facilities for serving the needs of those with mental health issues, whether they're homeless or not. I want to repeat that, whether they're homeless or not, all walks of life, there are needs for mental health support. For all walks of life, there's needs for drug and alcohol treatment. You don't need to fall into homelessness just to need it. So it really covers a huge population, but it is found to be, frankly, a root cause of the people that fall into homelessness and are stuck there, and they become chronically homeless for years. That's the issue. The people that are in this industry who serve these populations in Southern California, for example, in Seattle, especially Southern California, feel that what they call their sobering centers, what they call their treatment centers, they feel it's absolutely, totally, 100% essential to be effective in reducing homelessness, chronic homelessness, that you have to have these treatment centers. And yet here we are today with millions of dollars coming in, and my plea, plural, to try to get some attention towards providing those services. To the legislature, my message to the legislature, please help us with that. If it's not our local elected officials that can do the lift, then let's get some legislative assistance. If you're going to legislate, provide that service. If you really want to solve homelessness, that is one of those are the root causes. The other one, economic displacement, another root cause. I've been talking about anti-displacement policies. I've been talking about the land use and transportation policies that contribute to homelessness. No help, no assistance. And I mean that at a regional scale. Our staff are now working on it. I communicated with our newest employee, Everett Wild, and he's going to help with that. Gary, thank you for helping assign him to that work, and I'm hoping that he can help with the previous work that staff has done and we can accelerate this. I ask my colleagues, I plead, Commissioner Scholl, Commissioner Schrader, Commissioner Fisher, Chair Smith, please, after last night, hear the call. Hear the call. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted for asking, for suggesting, for pleading for drug and alcohol treatment, mental health treatment, and work on policies that don't economically displace people. People are falling into homelessness, losing their homes every day because they can't afford to be there. What are we doing wrong? Why is it worse in the Portland metro region than it is in other parts of the state? Granted, it's going around the country, but it's worse here. So my pleas to everyone, those that are here, my colleagues, those who are not here, our legislators, please hear the call. With that, we are adjourned.